We've got a sixth round of screaming, murderous Winnie the Pooh, a rock doc, some dark comedy, and a Woody Harrelson basketball movie. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Hello and welcome back to the show if you are returning, and welcome if it's the first time. We're going to start with some brand new movies as we do every single week. So this first one actually has really caught my eye being a musician. It is a journey through the New York music scene of the early 2000s. I would like to have been able to jump to some big artists that were around at the time. But the thing is, A, my memory doesn't serve me that well, and B, I don't really know who was big in New York in the 2000s.
Do you know what? I know a few of them, so let me pull up the list. I will say as well that, incidentally, I love that we're starting with this, because I know you often like to intro with, hello wherever you're listening, if it's or in the bath. So, of course, the first film we're talking about is a documentary called Meet Me in the Bathroom, which kind of fits nicely into your kind of kink there. But, so this, largely, the bands that leap to mind for me are The Strokes and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Those are two that come up. There's a lot more from around that kind of era, but it is East Coast, early 2000s, in New York, that kind of grungy music. It does largely fixate on The Strokes. Of all the bands, it does seem to largely follow them. And I'll be really honest, not a band I'm overly familiar with. Like I was more of a Hives kind of guy. The Hives, the Vines, those were more my early 2000s. But I'm aware of The Strokes. I've seen a Transformers movie. I'm aware of the iconic T-shirt. But yeah, a documentary takes you inside the world of the music scene of New York in the early 2000s, largely through the prism of The Strokes, but does involve other bands. I will get the list for you as we're doing the clip. Have a listen.
Julian was dealing with a lot of nervousness. I was like, how is he scared? He's so good. But he wrote all of the songs. His nervousness came out of that perfectionism.
So does this basically kind of flip around lots of different bands from the 2000s, or does it focus more on 3 or 4, or how does that work?
So it largely revolves around The Strokes. You get other bands in there. I have pulled up the list, incidentally, if you're interested. It does also feature the likes of LCD Sound System, as I said, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Interpol, TV on the Radio, and the Moldy Peaches. I think you can hear one member of the Moldy Peaches in the clip there as well. Like I say, not really absolutely my forte. I think this was kind of during the iPod era for me, so I was getting more into my retro hits at this point, my retro rock, as it were. But yeah, this was fascinating stuff. I mean, it's not in the top tier of music docs that you'll find. I mean, we saw that one, the Don Letts documentary, Rebel Dread, this past year, which I think was, now that's how you do a music documentary. That was insightful and punchy and powerful. This did feel very fan servicey to me. It's a good doc and everything, but I think it does depend on you kind of being a pre-existing fan, being nostalgic and into this specific era of music. Like I said, I'd imagine you'll have a good time with this. I'm looking forward to you seeing it, seeing what you get out of this, because I think it might be more within your wheelhouse. You're more the music guy out of the two of us than I am, you know what I mean?
I mean, this is kind of what concerns me about this movie or documentary, whether I would enjoy it or not, because early 2000s, I was kind of into my radio career. So generally, the only music I got to listen to was the cheesy pop that I was playing on my shows. So, I'm not sure I'm going to recognise many of the bands. One thing that's just stood out to me with you naming a few is how really badly named some of the bands were in the early 2000s.
Yeah, but I remember in the 2000s, all you needed to have a band was just you had the word "the," and then you just insert whatever you want after it. That was how you named a band in the 2000s. Also, incidentally, I work for you, man, so the only music I ever hear is the stuff you play.
Yeah, well, you'll know where I'm coming from then, because it does limit you. Yeah, it limits your knowledge.
Yeah, I only know about the existence of Harry Styles because of you. So, you know what I mean?
Well, he won't be featuring in this because he was probably not even a glint in his father's eyes at the time of this.
Barely a glint in the milkman's eye back in the day. At this point, Harry Styles. But no, I'd say I did go along with this. I thought it was quite well captured. There's a wealth of archival material, as you would expect from something that comes with this level, because obviously it's a subgenre that comes with a certain amount of dedication, and it's a scene that comes with a certain amount of passion and love, as as anything in music tends to do. I will also say, actually, as far as music documentaries we've covered recently that I think were actually better than this, the Chumbawamba documentary I thought actually was more insightful than this. What was that called? I Get Knocked Down.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't think you could make a decent documentary out of Chumbawamba, but I live to be surprised. This, though, I don't know. I think this will go down definitely with fans, and I think fans of the music scene of the time, certainly. In terms of the talent on there, no one particularly dazzled me. It's written and directed by Will Lovelace and Dylan Southern. Again, not really documentary makers I know all that much about. But, of course, rocking soundtrack. I mean, I was toe tapping all the way through this. There's the odd hit in there that you're like, oh, I remember this one. Yeah, I remember this from that Lager advert back in the day. And, it's very much one of those kind of documentaries. But as I say, the fans can see this. It's out today. I think it's in select cinemas from today. It's called Meet Me in the Bathroom. It's based on the book of the same name, which did shift quite a few copies, and is regarded as one of the better chronicles of the music scene of that period. As far, I've not read that book as a adaptation. I would imagine this feels like it fits pretty closely with what I know of that book, what I've been able to glean of it. So if you're a fan of it, check it out. If you're a fan of the music scene of that era, check it out. If you like a good music doc, check this one out anyway. It's not a boring movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not particularly nostalgic for me, and obviously not going to be particularly nostalgic for you, but obviously is going to be nostalgic for a not insignificant a number of people out there. So it's out today. It's called Meet Me in the Bathroom in select cinemas from today. Check it out.
Lovely. All right, well, we are going to continue with more new movies on the way in a moment. Winnie the Pooh goes all Chucky on us. I can't wait to hear about this one. I remember you talking about it last week. So we're going to talk about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and also The Middleman. Both of those to be reviewed by Van in a minute. Stay right there. And we are back. Now we're sticking with a couple of more brand new movies that are out this week. See, I'm losing my words, because who would have thought Winnie the Pooh would be involved in some kind of Blood and Honey movie turning all Chucky on us? I mean, I want to hear all about this.
Yeah, this is one of those things. This is because of lapsed copyright. So back in January last year, Winnie the Pooh, the original novel, finally entered the public domain, and they had this script in the barrel waiting for that day to come. So they pretty much started filming this the day after it became legal to do so. So basically, you've got certain concepts from Winnie the Pooh now in the public domain, revised here in this sort of revisionist dark horror sequel to Winnie the Pooh. So the idea is Christopher Robin and the adventures of Winnie the Pooh and the gang from 100 Acre Woods all happened as we know them. Then Christopher Robin got older, went off to college, and left them behind. And without him, they struggled. And turned all feral, all savage, set out for revenge on Christopher Robin, which they get in the first 10 minutes of this movie. And then we get a set of young, sexy teens come to the 100 Acre Woods on vacay, Airbnb or whatever, and find themselves the new potential victims of Winnie the Pooh and the 100 Acre Wood gang. I've got a clip for you. There are only two clips available for this. One is an action sequence in which, largely visual, in which Winnie the Pooh massacres someone with a sledgehammer. And the other one is what we're about to play. This is an expository clip. This is from the best sequence in the whole movie. The movie's 86 minutes long. This takes place at the very beginning of the movie. This is an animated intro that depicts this revisionist introduction. I should stress as well before I play this. This clip is what we get after we're told that after the departure of Christopher Robin, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet and their friends ate Eeyore.
And thus, Eeyore was no more. The trauma of this act warped the minds of the group. They became feral and developed a hatred to all things human, and in particular, Christopher Robin for abandoning them. A pact was made. They renounced their humanity and returned to their animalistic roots, swearing never to talk again.
This is so opposite to what you would expect from, obviously, a Winnie the Pooh movie. It's like, it would be the equivalent of The Purge, the musical. Like, it is complete opposite.
Hey, I'm just going to throw it out there. Save me a seat for Purge the musical. I'm there opening night. Like, I will watch the hell out of The Purge the musical. Good lord.
Well, that's an idea.
Someone's sitting on a gold mine with that one, Purge the musical. At the rate they keep chucking out sequels, prequels, spin-offs, and TV adaptations of The Purge won't be long. Right, speaking of, incidentally, this is not exactly going to be a one-off, because you and I just pulled up the director's IMDb profile right here and discovered that not only is he working on Blood and Honey 2, he's also working on Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare, which might be the first time anyone's ever said Neverland Nightmare without Michael Jackson being involved. It's one of those movies that you watch, you do think, right, all of the creative energy that went into this went into literally the concept. What you sit through with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey feels like... Have you ever been to a Scream Park, Adam? You know, one of those like live horror immersive experiences?
Oh, what? Where you walk around a corner and someone jumps out and scares the hell out of you?
Yeah. You've done one of those.
Yeah.
You know when you're waiting in line to go in? Because I did the Stranger Things one a few months ago. I did The Howl for Halloween. I've done Saw, Halloween Ends, bunch in the last couple of years. And while you're waiting in line, usually there's an expository video on, like really badly acted expository video. If you watch the Stranger Things experience, it's Matthew Modine and you know, like what do you call him, Sam from Lord of the Rings, etc. You know, they're doing like little talking head bits, backstory. That's what this feels like all the way through. Except for a few bits that then just feel like you're watching someone's YouTube footage of a walkthrough of a live horror experience. It's inventive enough in the gore department, but naff all else elsewhere. It's a really bare-bones direct-to-video, kind of grisly, low-budget, low ambition. When we're talking about we are talking about like men in rubber Winnie the Pooh masks, for instance, like Savage Bear masks, like a full-size, like 300-pound adult man.
Oh no!
Like, and what they're trying for here is like the hills have eyes, but it's the 100-acre woods have eyes. No, you've literally got a dude in like a warthog mask, with the tusks, and that's Piglet. And they're just wandering around like covered in gore with sledgehammers, just massacring teens. And you're like, yeah, this is cool and all, but like this is what you wanted to waste the Winnie the Pooh. Do you remember about a month ago someone was trying to flog the Mr. Blobby costume? They were trying to flog the original.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing that it went for 42 grand on eBay, and then the buyer welched out at the last minute. One of the conditions they put on that, I don't know if you're aware of this, one of the conditions they put on the sale was you couldn't use it to create any new media.
Yeah, that's right.
Specifically because they were afraid that someone would do something like this.
Mr. Blobby the murderer.
Yeah, I mean, to be really honest, if I spent money on one of the original Mr. Blobby costumes, I wouldn't be able to wait to make the slasher movie. Like, I would. Like, the Jeff Blobbington slasher origin story is absolutely the Mr. Blobby movie.
He wouldn't be able to get away very fast, though, would he?
He'd make his noise, he's waddling, he's making noise. But I guarantee you, though, what we've just done in that conversation involves more creativity than anything you'll find in this. We watched it at the Prince Charles. They tried to make it a bit of a retro horror experience for us. Doesn't work at all. It's mostly just plodding and dull with gore effects. It's not a particularly good slasher. It's not a particularly inventive or imaginative slasher. Directorially, it feels like, I think it's Reese Frake Wakefield. That's his name, who's doing the sequel on the Peter Pan spin-off. And I'll be honest with you, it feels like a starter movie for a career that you're going to begin 10 years from now. Like, 10 years from now, this guy could maybe be Jake Scott. But on the back of this, like right here, right now, there's not an awful lot going for this. I don't see there being much market for a sequel, and I don't see the Peter Pan one being much good after this either.
I don't particularly want to see one of my childhood heroes turn into a murderer, if I'm honest. So I probably would avoid it just on that premise.
It's not even that original, because the Banana Splits movie did this a couple of years ago. They made Banana Splits into a movie and then made it a slasher. And we've had Willy's Wonderland in the meanwhile as well with Nicolas Cage, which is be better than any Five Nights at Freddy movie could be. But alas, that's Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Frankly, I'd rather bleed whilst gorging on honey. But alas, let's talk about The Middleman, which is also out today.
Oh, yeah. I've seen the trailer to this. Basically, I almost fell asleep in the 2-minute trailer. All I could get from it is that it's a man that has to tell people bad news. I'm hoping there's a twist.
I mean, to be honest, I can relate, because it feels like all I do with my free time is like, with all my time, is just give people bad news about movies. Right, this was marketed to us, right? This is genuinely sent out, marketed to us by publicists as, if you like the Coen brothers, you'll love this. But, oh, can't wait. I love a good Coen John. Let's have a look. So I watched this, The Middleman, which, as you say, is about a man who lives in a small town that's accident-prone. There's accidents galore in this small town. And he is hired by the police because he's just an approachable everyman, sort of likeable everyman type. Needs a job, and they hire him to be the guy that has to deliver all the bad news to all the accident victims' families in this small town. And that's his job. He's the guy that gets to go around and deliver the bad news. However, his own life is upended when there's no accidents in the town. The accidents stop one day, only for his best mate to get into a sort of weird accidental misunderstanding in a bar, and he's then killed. He smacks his head on a jukebox after an altercation with a man, and he's dead. And he then finds himself put in the difficult position of having to be the witness for the only accident in the town. This turns out to not be the first accident that he's directly connected to, and it starts to raise some questions that start to unravel his life. Have a listen, and as you just pointed out about the trailer, see if that tone carries through this clip for you, Adam.
Mom, I was just playing in the yard, And I didn't even touch till that. Well, maybe I touched it, but it wasn't the fall that killed him. It was the scythe in the grass.
There's no accident. I saw what I saw.
But it was an accident. It was, Mom. And now I've been struck by tragedy again.
Is it over yet?
Yeah, well, okay, so first of all, Norwegian director Bent Hamer directed this. Now, someone misspelt it. Someone misspelt his name on one of the press releases that got sent to me. So I genuinely watched this entire movie thinking it was directed by Bent Hammer. So thank you for that, publicists. Thank you, because that was a very amusing morning.
Brilliant.
Alas, Bent Hammer does not direct this. Bent Hamer directs this. Norwegian director of, I think, Eggs and Factorum. Largely European cast in this as well. In the lead, you've got, I'm going to have to look up his name in the lead here. It plays it very Sam Rockwell in Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Palsver Hagen, who plays Frank, our lead, basically the middleman, as it were, is, I think you could hear him in the clip, is largely the reason to see the movie. Beyond that, what you get, again, feels like a petrol station DVD bin sort of attempt to cash in on Three Billboards. That's what I felt all the way through it. Feels not like the Coen brothers at all, and a lot more like this Martin McDonagh guy's doing all right. Hey, let's see if we can get some of that scratch. And that's what you get all the way through this. Nicely enough shot, and it does have a very stylistic, very European sensibility to its cinematography, the way it's staged, the way it's framed, and even those performances. But that laboured feeling doesn't quite work with the quirkier sensibilities that its concept, that its story seem to keep reaching for. Like I say, the performance by Hagen in the lead is very good, but a bit subdued, and again fits more in line with that European aesthetic. It doesn't quite work. This is one that, it's in select cinemas today, from your art house cinemas. Go and see it if you are someone that frequents the art house cinema, because this probably is going to be in your wheelhouse. If, however, you're going to see this at Screen 19 in Cineworld at 8:30 on a Tuesday, it's only showing for the day kind of thing, probably not going to be for you. You know what I mean? It's called The Middleman. It's out today in select cinemas. Nowhere near as good as the short-lived 2000 sci-fi series The Middleman, which starred Natalie Morales and was like Men in Black, the TV show. Way better Middleman than this. And didn't have any Ben Hammers involved either. And you can pick that up on DVD. I recommend that wholeheartedly. This, a lot less so.
Yeah, doesn't appeal to me at all. Doesn't sound like there's enough and action in this to draw me through to the end. I would definitely fall asleep. All right, well, we are back in a moment with a very wholesome movie, I would say. We're going to look at Champions, so stay right where you are. So we are back. Another new movie to talk about now that Van has seen and I haven't. It's called Champions, and from what I can gather, it's about a basketball coach who is ordered by a court to manage a team of players with intellectual disabilities. It's got a good soundtrack because I heard tub thumping in the trailer that I saw, and it looks like a wholesome movie. I have a feeling you're going to say it's complete opposite.
No, not at all. I'm going to say nice things about it, actually. Right, I will say first of all, your description there was very tactful. The film is a little bit less so. And okay, so first of all, this is the solo directorial debut of Bobby Farrelly, whose brother is Peter Farrelly. They together have been directing for decades as the Farrelly brothers. They are responsible for not one, not two, not three, but several, probably about a half dozen of some of my favourite comedies of all time, including Dumb and Dumber, Something About Mary,
Brilliant.
Kingpin, loads of great gross-out comedies. They even did that remake of The Heartbreak Kid with Ben Stiller from the late 2000s.
Yes.
Yeah, they can't make a sequel to save their lives, as Dumb and Dumber proved. But yeah, and of course, Peter Farrelly went on to win some Oscars a couple of years ago because he made Green Book as well, which came up in conversation earlier when a friend of mine asked me, did Roma win Best Picture? I can't remember. Nah, Green Book, mate. So, yeah, if you want to relive that trauma, yeah, Green Book won that year. Yeah, none of us could believe it at the time either. Wait until you see this weekend. Anyway, his brother has now gone the solo route as well. He's not swinging for Oscars. He has directed Champions. Champions is a remake of a foreign language film. I think it's a French film, actually. French might be Spanish. I'll have a look in a moment. Same name, and it is about effectively it's the plot structure of the Mighty Ducks. So you have you have the sort of washed out adults, has a drink driving accident, is sentenced to community service, and his community service is, well, you've got to go and coach a non-professional team. In this case, the team he is sent to coach are a group of, I think they're in their early 20s, young adults, each with, all with their own various learning disabilities, or their intellectual disabilities, or their special educational needs, etc. And he has to learn to overcome his own innate prejudices, winds up becoming sort of a champion for them. But this largely is confined to just, can they get through a series of basketball games? Can they get to, the next challenge? Can they get to the next championship? Can they get to the next league, etc.? And the coach, of course, in this case is Woody Harrelson, who also finds himself, because you've got to in all of these movies, entering into a will they, won't they relationship with the older sister of one of his star players, played by Caitlin Olsen, better known as Sweet D. Reynolds from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So congratulations, Farrelly. You got my money straight off the bat. As soon as you get an Always Sunny cast member in there, God damn it, you're entitled to my money. Have a listen. This is Harrelson meeting arguably one of the stronger players of his team, one of the more accomplished players of his team, who has been off for a great deal of time at this point, having been serving injury time, I believe. And she is my favorite character in this whole movie. Think iCarly in School of Rock. That's what you're going to get here. Have a listen.
Who the hell are you?
I'm Marcus, the coach. Welcome to the team, Cosentino.
Look, don't flirt with me, okay? Let's keep this professional. I'm Ms. Cosentino to you.
Beg pardon, Miss Cosentino. You know we're going to play basketball. We're not surfing.
I know.
Well, what's with the boogie board?
Sometimes these things come in handy.
Okay, a boogie board.
Yes, you do you, I do me, okay? Where did you get this guy?
He just showed up one day.
Do you know, you read my mind because I was about to say this has Jack Black written all over it in the style of rock. Was it Rock Band, did you say? I forgot what the movie was called.
School of Rock.
School of Rock. It just the premise reminds me of School of Rock.
Very much so. Now, that is the kind of archetypical underdog story that this is going for. You've got Farrelly on board. So with Farrelly, time was that you could expect that meant gross-out comedy. And the Farrelly brothers do not exactly have a rosy history with sensitivity in this particular arena. So I was kind of dreading this, if I'm honest. The movie is a dramedy that veers, I think, slightly more towards the drama. Not by choice, but I think because of both restraint and just a lack of funny. it's not that funny. It's charming, but I don't think it's as funny as it needs to be. You're certainly not getting School of Rock level laughs out of it. You're definitely not getting Mighty Ducks charm out of it. What you're getting is something that sits very awkwardly in the middle. And Woody Harrelson joyously playing to time, just literally showing up and being Woody Harrelson. I mean, this is another installment of the ever-expanding Woody Harrelson basketball franchise. There's a whole subgenre of movies that are just about Woody Harrelson playing basketball, it seems. And it's a fine addition to that. I think if you do go and see this at the multiplex this weekend, I don't think you're going to come out feeling like you wasted your money. I think you'll have there's a couple of good laughs in it, and like you say, the sequences like the tub thumping sequence in which they all bond over singing tub thumping and things like that. It's heartwarming at times in the way that Harrelson sort of softens to his players, etc. But I do think that the reason to see the movie above all else is the interplay, the back and forth between Woody Harrelson and Caitlin Olsen, Sweet D from Always Sunny. And they spark off each other very well, largely because her character, who she's kind of been typecast as on Always Sunny and all the other things she's done, because she kind of only really plays the character, is very close to what Woody Harrelson does just naturally anyway. That sort of grizzled loser type persona that Woody Harrelson likes to put on. They're both kind of doing it, but they're different kinds of losers, and it's just fun watching them kind of spark off of them. It was worth noting, this is another reunion of sorts as well for Farrelly with Woody Harrelson because of Kingpin in the late 90s as well, which was the bowling movie. So this is, I think, Woody Harrelson's second movie. I could be wrong, it might be his third, but I think it's his second movie with the Farrellys, or at least one of them in this case. Directorially, I don't think Peter has much to worry about at Christmas dinner this year. Like, I don't think Bobby's anywhere near as strong a director as his brother. His material certainly isn't quite as tight. Like, I think you'd hesitate to say this is as good a movie as Green Book. Like, I don't think Green Book's an amazing movie, but I think it's a stronger movie than this. This kind of feels like an awkward halfway point. And you do feel several times through it that there's an awkwardness to the sensitivity of it. It does feel like it's slightly too afraid to risk causing offense, that the sacrifice, the payoff, the trade-off that's been made for that has been at the expense of its comedy. And there's gags in there that really land. Johnny, who you could hear in the clip there, for instance, Caitlin Olsen's younger brother, introduces himself at one point as your homie with an extra chromie, which I'm not gonna lie, had me absolutely rolling around the floor in hysterics. Like, that was absolutely the strongest gag in the whole movie. It's just him rocking up and introducing himself, I'm your homie with an extra chromie. Like, brilliant, love it. I came away from it and I couldn't stop all the way through thinking of, and I'm going to have to revisit this movie, The Ringer with Johnny Knoxville from the mid-2000s. Did you ever see The Ringer?
No, I know about it, never saw it.
Much lambasted comedy starring Johnny Knoxville, and I think Brian Cox from Succession was his father, and it's one where Johnny Knoxville discovers the existence of the Special Olympics, pretends to be learning disabled, and enters the Special Olympics.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I found myself thinking about that a lot all the way through this movie. There's no real comparison point, but I was just thinking that is kind of the other end of the spectrum to this movie. So you can read into that whatever you like. This feels like the much more terrified answer, the much more sanitized, much more overly sensitive answer to The Ringer. I mean, don't ever watch The Ringer. I mean, has its moments. Don't ever watch it, whatever you do. It's a terrible movie. It's absolutely abhorrent. It's offensive to an absolutely incredible degree that you can't believe it ever got made. But, and here's where I really struggle, The Ringer's more memorable than Champions is.
Yeah.
Probably for all the wrong reasons.
See, I feel the big shame with this is, like you say, it's kind of in the middle. It needed to be, from what you've said, either extraordinarily wholesome or extraordinarily funny. But it's not. It's in the middle of both, and that just won't work.
It's having its cake, it's eating it, and it's getting it everywhere. And it just doesn't work. That's the problem. You know, you're coming away with a cake smeared face, effectively, and that's the real. You're getting it everywhere but your mouth. You know what I mean? It's just not working. It just doesn't quite come together. Having said that, there's a couple of laughs in there that do really land. I'm never going to stop chuckling about that. I'll be with an extra Croby bit. I say the interplay between Harrelson and Olsen, great. The drama stuff works. To be fair, like some of the more dramatic moments of it do work. And like I say, it's a slightly more grown-up SEN Mighty Ducks, for lack of a better term. It's a 3-star movie. You could maybe push it to 3.5. But no one's coming away from this thinking 2 thumbs up film of the week. You know what I mean? It's a shame.
Well, Champions out in cinemas from today if you want to go and make your own mind up about that. So, in a moment, we are back and we are going to talk about Scream 6. Yes, it's out. And we'll be back to talk about it with Van, who's already seen it, in just a minute. So we are back for one last ride then, and another brand new movie that is out today. We are heading over to New York City with Scream 6. Van, was this as good as the others?
Well, actually, I think it's better than several of the others, if I'm being honest. I'm a very harsh critic on the Scream sequels. Like, Scream is a masterpiece. Like, the first Scream is game-changing, genre-redefining, industry-changing.
Agree.
Because you can't minimize the impact that Scream had on the film industry in 1996. Like, it changed horror for a decade, easy. Some of the sequels, most of the sequels, if I'm being honest, have never quite lived up to the original for me. Because you have the original trilogy, you then have Scream 4, which is kind of sits in the middle, and then you have 5, which starts a new series. This is the second part of that series. Of course, you have legacy players who appear through all of them. And the movies themselves do tell you, because of their nature of the rules, they do tell you what kind of movie it is. So Scream 2 obviously is, now we're a sequel. Scream 3 is, now we're a trilogy. Scream 4 is, now we're a reboot. 5 was, now we're a requel, which I hate as a term. I much prefer rebootquel. And now 6, according to its own rules, is a franchise film, as we are told. This is a franchise film. Because they say, there are certain rules in order to survive a franchise film. So the idea is now that after the events of the fifth Scream movie, Melissa Barrera's character, Sam Carpenter, because she's named for John Carpenter, Sam Carpenter and her younger sister, Tara, played by the impossibly gorgeous Jenna Ortega from Wednesday, and they have moved to New York to try and move on with their lives, to get over the events of the previous movie. They have taken with them their, I think, only 2 surviving mates from Woodsboro in the last movie, who happen to be the siblings and adopted children of, adopted niece and nephew of Randy from the original trilogy. They've all gone to New York, only Ghostface is back. He's followed them there, and this time he's taking his killing spree to the streets of Manhattan. But of course, it's a Scream movie, so you have to have returning players, you have to have red herrings, you have to have a bit of a whodunit, and of course, you've got to have lots and lots of bodies. Have a listen.
It's for you.
Strange that you and I have never spoken on the phone. This is long overdue.
What is this place?
A shrine.
Did you miss me?
He's gonna keep coming after us.
Maybe he gets to win this time.
We've got to lure him in.
And we execute him.
Why have they changed the infamous Scream voice? Do you like scary movies?
It is worth noting, now this is a proper legacy sequel. As you can hear from the mention of the shrine there is literally a shrine. You can see this in the marketing. There is a shrine with all of the Ghostface costumes of all the previous killers. And what you get is, I would argue, the first proper Scream sequel that requires you to have seen all the others. particularly the one before. As in, this is very much a part 2, in a way that the Scream series has never quite done. Scream has always defaulted back to, now the characters move to another location and there's just another ghost face and tenuous link. Here you have a movie that is more about legacy, that is more about franchise. There is a threat early on that the movie might go into some genuinely impactful and insightful new terrain, particularly in the way that it treats its central character as a survivor, because the original Scream movies always had this whole thing where Neve Campbell kind of just, Sidney Prescott, who isn't in this movie, it's the first time she's not been in one of these, doesn't appear, and she was always treated in the sequels as she's the survivor, she's the one who got away, like she's remembered as the one who got away. Here you have, actually the internet thinks she made it up, that it was all a hoax, that it was fake news, that actually she killed them all. It's a great conspiracy theory. So you have, okay, what happens when you bring the internet into Scream? What happens when you go down the fake news route with Scream? And doing it in New York, okay, the home of Fox News, the home of Donald Trump. Like, there's something really to be done with this. They don't do that. No, they're keeping it a lot more insular, a lot more about Scream. And it's a shame, because I was really up for that. The movie itself, however, what we do get outside of that promise that they never quite fulfill is a movie that's chock full of quite inventive kills, some quite good set pieces, a pretty great use of its setting in a way that Jason Voorhees should hang his head and weep over. Because my first thought with Scream Does Manhattan is, yeah, but I saw a Friday the 13th movie that promised they were going to do Manhattan, and instead they just bitched out, spent the entire movie on the boat on the way there. Because that's what people do. They take boats to New York. This, not that at all. This is Ghostface on the streets of New York, on the subway, in the alleys, in the tenement blocks, and it's great fun. It is exactly what you want it to be. Dermot Mulroney shows up. Always happy when Dermot Mulroney shows up in a movie. You've got returnees like Hayden Panettiere, or Panettiere, how do you say her name? Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, who still, after all these movies, is not apologising for that fringe. All of these movies has still never apologized for that fringe she had in 3, which is Scream committed some crimes against cinema with that third installment, and that fringe was top of the list. But I will also say as well, it's also very weird to me that Hayden Panettiere, the cheerleader from Heroes, is now convincingly old enough to be like a 30-something FBI agent.
Oh, wow.
Does that make you feel like
old?
Yeah, that make you feel like you're getting on in years. The little cheerleader from Heroes is like an adult FBI agent. Yeah. If anyone's wondering, yes, there is a return of the Billy Loomis de-aging trick that they used in the last one as well, and done quite well. The movie still seems terrified to lean into the very obvious influence that it's ripping off, down to the fact that its chief character is surnamed Carpenter. So there is an element of some of Carpenter's most famous series that is referenced here, but never quite lent into as steadfast as you would hope they would. The influences are there on there with no bones. You can get them all. There's nods and winks to other horror movies. There are the screens on in the background that show some very specific influences and things like that. Jason Takes Manhattan is actually shown on a television behind one of the characters at one point. Like, that is quite of all the ones to play.
That's clever.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Well done. I say the stabs taken. Stab, nice reference there for Scream, because the fictional movie series in the Scream series is Stab, and you get sort of nods back to that. Not quite as heavy-handedly as you did last time. I thought it worked. I thought it worked very well. Of all of the sequels, I do think because I do think the sequels get progressively better from 4 onwards. I think 2 is a disaster. I think of the original trilogy, 3 is arguably the strongest of the sequels from the original trilogy. 4 I didn't particularly love, but from that point, they do seem to get consistently better. The stage is set here for yet another return of this series. Like, it's not like a cliffhanger or anything, but you can see them picking this back up. There's enough to the universe. They've still never quite explained how the two sisters who lead this series now have entirely different ethnicities, despite the fact that we are told very explicitly that they share a mother and they have one very specifically different father, because that's part of the mythology. But it's never quite explained why one of them appears to be Asian and the other is Latina. So I'm going to leave that one to the conspiracy theorists out there. But I will say, of all the set pieces to put in a Scream movie, the subway sequence in this might be one of my favourite to date, which is it's set on Halloween. You've got a subway car filled with Halloween costumes. How many people do you think are there in the Scream?
Of course you have.
Absolutely brilliant. Loved it. It's my favourite action sequence on a subway in a subway horror movie subway car since Predator 2.
Wow.
So take from that what you will. Fans obviously going to lap this up, and they have every right to, because like I say, I think one of the stronger sequels, very easily one of the stronger sequels. I'm not going to rewatch it in a hurry, but I wouldn't rewatch any of the Scream sequels in a hurry. I'll always rewatch the first one. Non-fans will come to this and just enjoy a straightforward slasher. It's fine. Just, take. You can pretty much get the mythology as it goes. But if you have seen the movies, this is the legacy sequel that you've kind of been waiting for.
So it would be totally fine for me, for example, you said it follows on from 5. I haven't seen 5, so I could watch this and still enjoy all the things you've enjoyed. I'll just miss out on a few of the references, right?
To be honest with you, the only piece of core mythology that's kind of pivotal to this is knowing that the central character is the daughter of the original killer from the first one. Like, that's a thing that the series has now, which, incidentally, is lifted wholesale from Halloween 4, 5, and 6, I think. So, Halloween 4, 5, and 6, I think it's Jamie Strode, Daniel Harris's character. They have literally recycled that plot point, but they seem to refuse to make her a killer. Like, they have her continuously, like, in both of these movies, they constantly put her in this position of it's kill or be killed, but they really don't want to do much more with it than that. And you're like, that is where you're really letting the side down, because there's a chance to do something really new and exciting with that, or at least like bring Nev Campbell back and have her revealed as the killer. Like, just do one of those two things and do something different with this series before we get to Scream 7 where they're on a boat, because that's clearly going to happen next time. And you know what I'm like with predicting nonsense sequels. So they're clearly going to do Scream 7 like on a cruise ship or something. We've got
or a plane.
Or a plane. Scream on a plane. Scream it in the air. Oh my God. Scream in the air. Like, just call it that. I would love that. Scream in the air. Like, I would love that. But yeah, Scream 6 is out today. Let's be honest. This is going to be the number one movie at the box office this weekend. Everyone who wants to see it is going to see it. This review was entirely pointless. But you know what? I got to see it. So goddamn, I'm going to review it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's going to be anybody that doesn't enjoy watching this. It's just,
did we talk you round? Were you not going to see Scream 6 after having seen the other 5? Oh dear.
Exactly that. Well, that's out in cinemas from today, as Van said. If you want to go and watch it and make your own mind up, not as Van said, you're going to need to be told. Now, that's all we've got time for this week. We are going to be back next Friday. We're going to be looking at Pearl. What's this one about?
Pearl is the prequel to a movie we reviewed together, X by Ty West, which was about the porn makers, the porn production crew who went and I think it's in the 80s, who go and make a bunch of movies on like a farm, rent a farmhouse. This is the prequel to the kooky old lady who owns. Yeah, well, no, they made it kind of around the same time. There's a third one coming as well called Maxine. This is about the kooky old lady psycho who owned the farm, only she's now played in her younger years by the lead from that previous movie, Mia Goth, whom I love dearly. We're going to be talking about her in another movie in a few weeks as well, called Infinity Pool. She is the new Scream Queen, baby, and I am here for it.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that next week. We've got Alleluia.
Yeah, new adaptation of the Alan Bennett play. I think this stars Jennifer Saunders, if I'm not mistaken. We have also got next week the horror movie Play Dead. Shazam is back. Finally, I don't know if anyone's actually going to care that Shazam's back, because is there really ever any excitement for a DC movie nowadays? Like,
it's fading.
It's fading. The first Shazam is the best like movie of the original DCEU. So, you know, I'm here for it. I love the first Shazam. I want to see the sequel. I'd rather that the guy playing Shazam wasn't like a bigot and a maniac, evidently. But we're going to gloss over all that because his dad died the same day that he put all that on Twitter. Anyway, we can find out when Fury of the Gods opens next week. And one that's not on our sheet, I've been saving this for you, Adam, because I know how much you'll be looking forward to this.
Top Gun 3?
It's not Top Gun 3, sadly. But it's going to be about as cinematically explosive. We have the new Netflix documentary to talk about next week. Money Shot, the story of Pornhub, is out next week. So we have that.
Oh, wow. Brilliant. Wow, that's something I'm most... Yeah, I can't wait either. And that's not coming from a smutty side. I'm just really intrigued.
I'll be really honest. I'm mostly looking forward to seeing who they get as talking heads in it, like who they interview, and just to be like, oh, that's whatever happened to her. You know, it's just gonna be one of those, isn't it? It's like, oh, Jenna Sativa's still alive. That's good to know. You know, one of those things. Actually, whatever did happen to Jenna Sativa, she was my fave. Anyway, never mind. We'll find out next. Hopefully, she turns up in Money Shot, the Pornhub story, courtesy of Netflix. Incidentally, true story about that, by the way. Netflix sent out a press release for Money Shot, the Pornhub story. Accidentally left the CC link open, so everyone who replied to it responded to everyone who had been sent the email. It was a terrific morning. It was great. It was absolutely wonderful. And I'll tell you something for nothing. You will be shocked at how many of my peers get very, very squeamish as soon as you use the word porn.
Oh, really? I'll tell you, I think this is going to be an interesting movie anyway, a documentary, but just to find out about the Wonga, how much money is made in that industry.
Not much since OnlyFans, I don't think.
That's very true. All right, well, we've got all of those to talk about next week on Off Screen. So until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.